Greetings to all, and welcome to Talking Tilted. It's not a new show. This is a one-off, hopefully. But who knows? This might become a monthly thing at this rate. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But what we'd like to do today is we would like to take some time and present the information we have on the current events in the Tilted world, and maybe some future events in the Tilted world as well, to the best of my knowledge. So there may be some knowledge I have that is incorrect. There may be some knowledge I have that is incomplete. But this is the situation as I understand it, and you are free to do with the information what you will. Take it or leave it. So, yes, I would like to start first with a timeline. After the timeline, I would like to give my side of things over the course of that timeline. And then we'll open to public discussion in the open forum setting. Now, I think most open forums do get a bad rep, mostly because, at least for me, most of the open forums that I have been able to participate or observe are usually some weird, like, religious call-in open forum, which is not really an open forum because they tend to disconnect you and rip the cord out from you the moment things turn south. I do not shy from such things, so I will, unless there's blatant abuse occurring, I will not be yoinking anyone. I will give, to my best ability, give everyone an equal amount of time and platform to share, to express their side of things, regardless of where they stand on the situation, just so we can have all opinions heard that are willing to be heard. So that is the expectation set. Let's see if we can live up to it. I will probably be sipping heavily from my drink. It is not to be coy or surreptitious. I just have a bit of a raspy voice today, so I need some soothing, smoky black teas with honey and other things. I might bite into a lemon later. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. All right. The timeline as I understand it. We go back to MLT Season 1-ish, probably slightly before then, for controller inputs, period. I think there has been more than one instance of controller inputs being adapted to Tilted based on the controllers people were using and how they decided to map things. But it was around that period of time. I had always been in Camp Keyboard, so I never really dabbled too much into the joystick and controller tilting. But having known several diehard joystick tilters since it became a thing, it's always been something kind of in my ear. As controller tilts began to spread, more people were getting into controllers, and then somewhere around, it was between MLT1 and MLT2, people were able to more elegantly manipulate the board with a controller than with a keyboard. So the thing I like about keyboard tilting is the reliable input. If I press forward, the board will accelerate forward the same way every time. So it's up to me to be consistent with for how many frames to get the same effect. Whereas with a joystick, while yes, most of them are grooved into the orthogonal and diagonal directions, sometimes there's usually still a little bit of a give. So your holding forward might not be forward, it might be slightly to the left or the right, which would actually keep the marbles from going forward as quickly as they would had you gone just straight forward with a keyboard. And so players began to try to compensate for that. So the advantages of the controller inputs is that you could go partial ways, right? So because of how the joystick registers with an input into the game, if you only went halfway to the right, the board would only tilt halfway to the right. It wouldn't be the full tilt like with the keyboard. The keyboard, you kind of have to tap a direction to kind of keep the board accelerating in a kind of a holding pattern. I think we can do a quick demonstration here of what I'm talking about. So you'll see here, if I try to go backwards, all right, it's going to full tilt every time. But I can kind of hover the acceleration of the board to keep it at a not full angle, right? With a joystick, you could literally just kind of partially hold down the key and be able to make that happen. Now, what keyboarders have been able to do to adjust for that is the inputs will cancel each other out with their accelerations. So right now I'm holding the backwards. You can see the inputs right here on the screen. If I tap forward, the board's not going to move because the inputs cancel each other out. But I can let go and then resume the backwards to adjust the tilt of the board. So in certain very rare situations, usually on like those 45-degree angles with something like a Dick corner or anything like that, those partial inputs actually can be replicated with a keyboard to try to compensate with the joystick. But for the reliability of the joystick, some people were finding ways to use both the joystick and the 4-button pad. Usually, I guess would be called the D-pad more generally for the tilting with a controller. So by using the D-pad, you could be assured you're getting those straightforward inputs instead of relying on the joystick, which might be off a little bit depending how it accelerates. You know, if I press S, the board is going to go full speed, whereas if I have a joystick, there's going to be a tiny bit of a lag, which generally is not a problem. But when you get into those really persnickety tilt combos where you need pinpoint accuracy, that kind of thing can make a difference. So there were some adjustments that keyboarders were making to do what the joysticks could do easier, and there were adjustments that the joystick controllers were doing to make it compensate for what keyboards were able to do. What this resulted in a side effect was a double input. So if you used the joystick and the D-pad at the same time, because of how, and again, this is speculation, I don't know the specifics of the programming here. But as best as I can describe it, the input is an acceleration of a 3D object, right? So this board is created procedurally, and then it becomes an object, and then you're just manipulating the object around the focus of the camera point. So wherever the camera is focusing on the center of the tile, about here-ish, is where the board is fulcrumed, right? And as you can see, the board doesn't just, it's not instantaneous, right? There's a bit of an acceleration to it, right? And that's kind of to keep the marbles from exploding, right? If the board just instantaneously went down, the marbles would just explode everywhere, right? So you don't want to have that. So there's this acceleration of the board. So as best as I understand it, every time you had an input for forward, it would add that acceleration to the board. So this phenomenon that was happening was you would have a joystick forward and a D-pad forward, which would give you 2 times acceleration of the 3D object. Now, the difference there is very slight. It's a difference. Obviously, if you're going to have a split-second moment where, you know, you're on the wrong side of a squeege, or you need to, you know, back out of a radar scanner or something very quickly, having a little bit faster moving of a board is going to give you a bit more leeway in those split-second decisions to stop marbles and turn the direction and things like that. But it was never anything I considered significant enough to warrant digging into too much. However, I was a little interested in its potential. So when I found out about the double input acceleration was about 2 seasons ago, more or less. Would have been after, it was definitely after August, so probably November, I want to say, somewhere in that time frame. And again, it was just a blip because other than, you know, very rare occasions where having a faster moving board was a clear advantage, it really wasn't amounting to anything. Nothing was really becoming of it. And then about 2 weeks prior to Tuesday, there was found a way to accelerate those inputs. So there was one weird way where you could actually have a triple input, even though there's 2 binding options. And there were a couple other options based on your quality settings and computer hardware and things like that. So what you were able to do is, if you'll notice, the board actually kind of leads, right? So where the camera is focused, it has this kind of lead to the marbles, right? So the marbles go, and then the camera has to kind of catch up. And then when you change direction, the camera is kind of going forward and then has to come back. So as you can see in certain situations, the camera is actually in front of the marbles. Or in other cases, like here, you'll notice that the marbles actually lead in front of the camera. So dead center is right about here, and the marbles are actually ahead of the fulcrum point. So what that would do, if your board was fast enough, even though they're only a small distance ahead of the board would still move fast enough to pop the marbles in front of the camera. So that would then allow you at full speed to be able to jump over walls. So that mechanic was only discovered about a week or two ago. And that is the timeline as I have it. Level 1 scuff. I'm a professional. You call yourself the #1 scuffer, Emo. I'll give you a scuff. I'll show you how to really scuff. So that is the timeline as I understand it. Now, beyond that, it does seem there were individuals who did and did not know that there was a difference in acceleration using the controller. So some people were using a controller with the joystick and D-pad double input, not knowing that the board was tilting faster. And that kind of speaks to the topic a little bit already, in that even though there were events that people were using this double input in, knowingly or unknowingly, it wasn't enough that people noticed, right? I didn't notice in the events I was running. And, most other people didn't notice, considering how many people were caught by surprise, right? So if the speed of the board moving, even though it was technically doubled, wasn't enough for people to notice, that speaks to how slight the advantage was and why no one was really making a big deal about it initially, because it was really fairly insignificant. Only in the last 2 weeks or so has it been developed to a point where it actually could break the game, and then Pixel gets word of it, and then the patch is put through. So that is the information as I have it. My side of things. Let's start from the beginning. I've been tilting since season 11, when Tilted first came out. August 2019, if I recall correctly. And from essentially August season 11 to season 22, 11 seasons or so, I was kind of pushing Tilted. I was, trying to make as big a deal as possible, organizing events, encouraging other people to organize events, working with people who were organizing events, working with Pixel, both developing the game and getting studio-sponsored Tilted events to happen. And it was a long haul, big push. Then 22 to 25 was kind of that Tilted explosion once season 25 hit and the changes to XP hit. And then 25 to 27 was this huge, takeover. And then from about 27 to now, up until MLT3, I've kind of been in the background a little bit on the Tilted scene. And there's reasons for this, which we will also be getting into. So in that season 11 to season 22 window, it was just doing whatever we could to grow the game mode as quickly as possible with as many people as possible in a good spirit. And this is one thing Yusuf had brought up that I do want to have a slight correction of. More so, first, an apology that I apologize if how I worded myself during the Speed Tilt conversations a policing tone came across, because that was not the intention. And I would certainly say then to now, there's also a different environment in the tilting. So first off, apologies for any policing tone that came across, for how tilt should be done, right? So I apologize that was the impression people got in some instances. But one of the things we tried to encourage, especially people who are tilting to higher levels, was that you tilt your highest PB of the season live rather than doing a simulation. It's not to say that you can't, and it's not to say that you should, but especially at that time, Tilted was so new and so vulnerable, in my opinion, because, there was a lot that could have gone wrong and the whole thing could have just died. We really wanted to push the interactive side of it, involving the audience in the drama of the tilt session, having that characterization of people's marbles misbehaving, giving personalities to the events that are happening. The decisions we loosely came to agree mostly across the board. And again, I can't speak for everyone, and everyone tilts their own way. But those ideas and setups were to try to guide the growth of the game in a good way as quickly as possible, right? Like, we didn't want to start doing the giveaway things, because giveaway things, I mean, we've seen that come and go, I think 3 times now in Marbles history, and it always kind of goes in a bad direction. The studio got away from giveaways quite quickly once it became problematic in a growing strategy. Not to say it's not an effective growing strategy, right? Because with $500, the amount of advertising you could buy for your stream or the game is practically nothing. But you put a $500 prize pool on an event you're having, and you're going to get 100 plus people every time. So while there's merit to it, there's also that cost of who are you attracting. And attracting the giveaway audience to the tilted scene, when tilted's much more about the challenging of self and the challenge against the tilted mode and the drama of the long run, it just didn't seem like a fit. So, loosely decisions were made, and casual, non-binding agreements were encouraged. Like, tilt with your PB of the season live. If you get your PB with a sim, like, just end the run or try to beat it by the end of the season, and just be honest, like, hey, I got to level 52 this season, but it was a sim. Like, okay, try to get it there, try to do it live next time. That way we can cheer you on, right? And that's, again, back then I think it was much more important than it is now, and there's a couple of reasons why we want that even still to this day. The one being, we want to keep the interactive side of Tilted. Most games, especially on like a speedrunning side, tend to be done in isolation. There are people now that are streaming their speedrunning practice, but most speedrunning is done, in your own room, in your own world, very interactive. And again, usually with like really challenging games, it's a little different now than it was then, but people who don't want distraction, don't want, people talking all the time, right? Tilted's very challenging, very tough. And there are plenty of games very similar to Tilted where you don't stream it, you just grind it out, you do your thing. Maybe you record it if you're going for a global leaderboard of some kind, and then you can put the recording up. So there are already a lot of games like that. And the uniqueness of Tilted is that it's people's marbles on the track. People can be a part of those world record runs. You got Dark Madden right now on 62. He hit that on Friday, I think. Where's my marble main? So Dark Madden hit that on Friday, and your marble could have been one of the 3 marbles that finished, level 61, right? That's right. How there's not really any other game that does that, right? If someone gets the fastest world record time for Mario 64, no one in the Twitch chat is a part of that, right? Like there's no one in chat's like that was me on the Bob-omb part. Like no, it was all the one person, right? And yes, Tilted is technically all the one person, but it has that participation element, and that's something we wanted to shy away from. So still to this day, I would say, is a relevant, encouraging factor not to do sims for PBs. Obviously, if you just want to tilt, you just want to practice, and maybe if you're just getting your PB for yourself, no one's going to tell you not to. It's just something we encourage for the sake of the growth of the game. And like I said, nowadays, I think Tilted is actually quite big, at least as far as Tilted goes. In its current form, I think it's very limited appeal. So I don't think there's going to be another huge influx of Tilted until there's another good update to it, kind of like a season 25 update or a season 20-ish update. But it's in a pretty good spot right now, so I don't think it's as disruptive to have simulation tilts and other things like that. So 2011 to 22, that was kind of that growing period where we were very sensitive about how we wanted to grow the community and who we wanted to attract and all things like that. And then 22 to 25 was kind of that explosion. We had the Tilted Takeover Season 22 and then the Pixel XP modifications in Season 25. And so that's when I think the most people got into Tilted. There was steady growth of Tilted up until that point. But that's when people were like, oh, maybe we should take Tilted seriously because people can get top 3 streamer with it, etc., etc., etc. And obviously, you're not going to retain everyone that jumps on that bandwagon. But I would imagine there are more people today than there were pre-season 25 that are tilting now. So in that larger expansion, you kind of just let go of the reins, right? You just say, hey, well, let's see what happens. I think we have a core foundation of community members that can support the general influx of people. We can offer tutorials, we can offer advice, we can kind of help educate people on what are some of the expectations of the higher performances, either in a competition or for the leaderboard for the season, stuff like that. They're just kind of like, we finally got to a big growth spurt where Tilted was taken more seriously by the marbles community at large. Then around season 27, I want to say, I had my brief grinding attempt, and then that was the season that Pixel nerfed the XP. So unfortunately, that was poorly timed. But right before then, I think that was around season 27 or so, I was starting to notice a bit of that clickiness that we talk about, right? And that's not to say that it shouldn't happen, and I would say there's no way to avoid it. But it's something that I was kind of very fascinated with because it's very rare that you get to see that moment in a community, to watch it happen in real time. Usually when you join a community, either it's just beginning and then it doesn't really get anywhere, or it's already huge and the cliques have already formed. So being able to just kind of observe and watch the beast grow, as it were, was something I was very interested in. And I decided to kind of take a back seat. I decided to focus more on my building, and I started getting more commissions, was kind of helped that decision. We were bringing record hunters back, so I was getting everything lined up for that. And just decided to keep my ears open, watch everything unfold as it would, and just kind of let it do its thing. I've been lashing the whip for 11 seasons up until season 22. Let some other people just lead the charge and push Tilted in the directions they wanted to go, and let the community grow and see what decisions people are making and things like that, right? And so 2 seasons ago, when this first came to my attention of the double inputs thing, one, I didn't take it as much of anything because it didn't seem like any clear advantage initially. So I wanted to see if people would be able to do anything with it, which eventually they did. But also, too, I just wanted to see who was going to take that charge. I've been working with Pixel with Tilted a lot for a long time. I've tried to replicate glitches for him. I've collected data from a bunch of you guys to get feedback for him so he can figure out how he wants to update the game. Even kind of worked through some tile progressions way back here in the early day. We just had a breakdown session. Don't know what he did and did not actually take from all that, but it was fun to just kind of lay everything out, to dissect Tilted and just present him the info, the raw data, and let him kind of rebuild it from there. So I really just wanted to see who was going to do what. So if people came to me with information, I'd be like, cool, keep going, see what you do with this. And just to see what kind of happened. Pairing with this, when we were talking speed tilts, and we were doing the kicking strategy, which caused a lot of commotion for the speed tilters. One remark I had made was that if you guys are this upset about kicking marbles, you're not ready for when real people get a hold of this game and fucking break it. Right? Yusuf? You can't deny it. Those were almost my exact words. I said, if kicking is too much for you guys, you are not ready for when people get a hand of this game and fucking break it. You're not ready. And here we are. And people weren't ready. So I'm not going to pretend to be omniscient. I'm not going to be going full I told you so. Because there were things I didn't know that caught me off guard too with all of this. But in my mind, it was kind of inevitable for something like this to happen. And rather than, constantly getting involved and everyone being annoyed by Shen going everywhere and saying everything all the time and just not letting people alone in peace, I figured it would be very interesting to me and props even better for the community if I just kind of backed off and just let things run their course. So that's my side of things as far as that goes. Now, I do also want to stress 2 weeks ago when it was first brought to my attention that they had manipulated the double inputs to the point of being able to have lead marbles jump. I said, this is not good. That was a live on stream moment. The information was presented to me while I was tilting on stream. We watched the clip together on stream, and I said, yeah, this isn't good. We're going to have to look more into this. And that's when I began data collection. Now, we needed to understand how it exactly was happening, what the setups were, if it was hardware related or not, all this other stuff. So Diablo Bob, I kind of described the parameters at the very beginning, but what we can do right now, since it's the topic at hand, let's go to the Pixel by Pixel Discord and go to the Tilted Tilters channel. Man, we're living up to that name, aren't we? Go back, I believe it was Monday, right? It was before Tuesday that this clip was posted, which was also kind of fun in my mind. But yeah, here we go. Let me get the pop out here. Ooh. So, go full screen with this bad boy. Ooh, I'm on the wrong side. But the marble is right here. This is just a single marble. So the advantage of using the single marble, again, if you're going full speed, the camera fulcrum is about here, which lags behind the lead marble. So the board is not fulcrumed where the marble is. the marble is slightly here. So there's a chance for you to pop the marble up if the board moves fast enough. So you can see here, there's going to be a flick of the board, and each flick of the board is going to be enough so long as they're going full speed. So that was the one parameter here. The marble has to be going full speed to get the camera behind enough to make the movement of the board significant enough. You can't do this when the marble's standing still. It's only at about full speed. And you'll see right at the end of this clip, when the marble's not going full speed, it doesn't make the jump. So right now the marble's still going full speed, camera lagging behind, the board's able to flick the marble up, and then I believe right here, he no longer going full speed, can't make the jump.
Damn it.
Right?
God.
And that's the stuff we were collecting information on, right? That's the stuff we were trying to figure out. I would imagine most people, CC Kitchen, thank you for the raid. I would imagine most people have not filed a proper bug report with Pixel. Okay? It's story time here. Okay? Way back when, as far as the builder has been around, you can only upload a track with one start piece and one end piece. In fact, you can't even run a simulation in the builder if you have more than one start piece. A quick demonstration, if you will. All right. So, if I have two start pieces and a finish piece, then I go to test to upload. It won't even let you test it, let alone try to upload it, right? And there was this long wanting. Like, it would be really cool if we could put this in the middle of the track instead of the start of the track, right? I want to be able to put this in the middle of the track, right? People are always talking about that. And you couldn't. But then one day, actually it was one season, I think. It was one season. Some of us uploaded maps and it would look like a normal map, right? It would look, yeah. Scroll through your list and find a normal map, Shen. Yeah, good idea. This is thought out. Anyway, you would load up your map, right? And for whatever reason, there'd just be like a star piece in the middle of it. And be like, what? And we were very confused. We're like, why is there a start piece in the middle of the map? And there was those of us who were like, oh my God, there's a way to get start pieces in the middle of the map. So we looked into it, right? We looked into it. And it took a while to figure out what was going on. But there were a couple things that happened that allowed this to happen. The first was Pixel's fault. No surprise. And not so much his fault as it is an oversight. So as you see, at that time, I think there were only 6 start pieces, maybe 7, maybe 8. I think there were only 6, maybe 7. There were only 6 start pieces. And they were labeled 001, 002, 003, 004, 005, 006, right? And to this day, I still don't know exactly how it worked. When I was replicating it for Pixel, I could only get it to work a third of the time, and he figured out the rest on his own. But basically, this is not a piece, right? It is now, right? If I go to the object list, it's map piece _ starting funnel _ and then the creation time, right? But it used to just be 001 was the piece, right? Now, by that self, it's fine. But the issue was if you had a piece and you attracted an obstacle to it, I'll use a larger obstacle so you can see it. The obstacle also had a number. And the obstacle's numbers were 001, 002, 003, 004, 005, 006. Now, that in itself is not a problem because obstacles and start pieces are 2 different things. But if you duplicate a piece of track with an obstacle attached to it, the game would sometimes get confused, and still does to this day, actually. where you could actually manipulate the copying, and then you'd be able to delete track pieces. But you'd have these floating obstacles, and the piece that these obstacles were attached to didn't exist anymore. And the game was like, okay, it's a 001, but it's not attached to anything. It must be a start piece. And so what we did is we would do this copy obstacle glitch, right? And what you would do is you would build your track with the start pieces wherever you wanted them. You would write down the coordinates and the orientation. So if you like rotated everything, right? You would write down all these numbers. And then what you would do is do a duplication glitch and make sure your obstacle number corresponded with the start piece that you wanted's number. And then you would just copy the data, the orientation into it to put it where you wanted it. And then when you uploaded the track, the pieces, the obstacles became start pieces. Now, it was hard to do because you had to make the track uploadable without the start pieces, right? You couldn't put the start pieces in the game. You had to use the glitched obstacles, right? So you had to design the track with the start pieces, and then you had to delete the start pieces, put the obstacles where the start pieces were, but still have marbles be able to finish the track. There was a lot of jank required to break the game. But needless to say, I uploaded the map without saying anything to anyone once I had cracked the code. And then Pixel contacted me a couple days afterward when I asked him to run the map on his stream. It was like, what the fuck did you do to my game? And the problem was I didn't know, right? We kind of understood how it worked, but I had to upload the track like 4 times because it only worked like a third of the time, right? So we didn't quite know what we were doing. We just had an idea. And it was like a 3-day back and forth. Send me this, try uploading this, do this. It was a mentally infuriating process because you would do something, it would work, you would think you're doing the exact same thing, and then it wouldn't work. And you would just slam your head against the fucking table for 3 fucking days with nothing making sense, right? So anyone who's actually followed through with a bug report with Pixel knows this. Okay, so when you just post your clip in Discord, if no one else has ever had that glitch and no one else is able to replicate it, I hate to break it to you, it's just going to get thrown out the window because it's not worth the time. You know, the studio is so many people with only so many hours in a day. It's not going to be on the top of the priority list, right? Unless it's something that needs immediate attention, like a glitch that lets you jump marbles over obstacles, or letting people upload tracks made out of starting pieces, right? Then it's going to get immediate attention, right? So, why it was taking me over a week to bring the information to Pixel was because we were still trying to collect the data. Is it reliant on the camera? Turns out, kind of yes. Do you need triple inputs to do it, or can you do it with double inputs? What is the actual double input glitch? You know, these are things that weren't completely understood and probably still aren't completely understood by the community at large, right? So anyone who's worked with a bug report with Pixel before knows you don't just throw it at them, right? You have to do as much work as you possibly can and remove as much bias as you can. As that's the other thing is, and Pixel's right in making this call, but the biases of your glitch report don't help, right? So if you assume something, if you speculate something, all that information doesn't help, and it clouds the situation. He only wants to know what you know for sure, how you replicate it, and what the ramifications are, right? So it's a lot of work to get it right, to have it taken seriously, to get it taken care of, right? So once it reached the point where it was like, oh shit, we need to do something about this, there was a lag. We had to collect the data, get get a thing together and do it. But the conversation broke before we had all the data. So when Pixel contacted me, I just gave him what I had. I was like, we were working on it, but this is all I have so far. And he was able to, at least thankfully, he had enough between the people he contacted to get the information he needed. So, yeah, my side of things. GG. I would like to open the conversation, and I can start if it helps get the ball rolling. But if anyone is willing to jump in Discord, we do have the echo chamber open in my Discord, !Discord or !Talk. And I'll drop in and out there. If you do have lengthy contributions to make, obviously there's I think a 200 character limit to messages in my chat. So anything longer than that, you're going to want to put in either the Losing Our Marbles. I would prefer use the Tilted Tutelage channel. And if you have global comments you want to make after this, feel free to put that in the PvP Tilted Discord. I kind of requested we shy away from text-based chat only about this because it leads to misunderstandings, which, then resulted in a misunderstanding, which was absolutely hilarious. But let's try to keep, the misunderstandings to as much of a minimum as possible. And that's all that. So let's start off with where I stand on the matter, and then you guys might be able to weigh in more directly with where we're going with all this. Honestly, I'm not opposed to the update Pixel put in. It makes the game more reliable, it makes it better. I'm all for it. Personally, I would have liked to see what it did for speedrunning. If people could perfect the technique to a reliable state, just to see how stupid we could get speed tilting to be, because that is part of speed tilting, right? If you look at Super Mario Brothers, when you can, I guess it was Super Mario World, where you can do certain commands at certain parts at certain maps, and then the RAM of the game reads exactly the same as the end condition. So the game just jumps to the end condition. You basically, trick it with inputs, which is pretty much exactly what what my starting piece glitch was, right? You trick the memory into reading it wrong, right? And that's part of speedrunning. And what's great about speedrunning is you can differentiate, right? So if you look at the speedrun.com website that Yusuf did a great job getting approved and working through, it was a double hassle. Did you only have to do it twice, Yusuf, or was it more than twice? But he was able to talk with the community, hosted a couple, discussions about it, and, decided there would be the normal tilting, which is the non-sim, don't kick, no viewer restriction, 10-second timer, no seed, the doing it the right way. I use that very, very loosely. That's like the category, right? The no out of bounds. And then there's the do whatever the want category, and then there's the seeded categories. So you can do it on random, or you can use the speedrun.com seed. And then there's simulations where you can simulate the seed or simulate the random map, right? So 1 year gap a strategic 1 year gap between submissions. Yeah, so all that worked out pretty well. But personally, I did kind of want to see if we could get it to a completely broken point for the sake of speedrunning. But I take no issue with the update that Pixel did. And I think Not Ferrari did a pretty good job of expressing the community's appreciation of his involvement, stepping in. So if you haven't already read Not Ferrari's post on that, I think it was posted on the 23rd in the Tilted Discord in Pixel Studios. So I would encourage you to read that. I think it's very well said. And yeah. Um, for me personally as well in those regards, um, since there were things I did not know, both for just global leaderboard and in competition. Um, it was a bit of a surprise, but I wasn't angry about it. Um, we're not going to we're not going to further any witch hunts here, so I'm going to do my best to keep everything anonymous. Some of you are inevitably going to know who I'm talking about with what, but we're going to keep it as vague as possible for the sake of not furthering any further witch hunts. But if beating me required a mechanical advantage of some kind in a competition, I take that as a compliment. It means I'm a threat. It means I got skill. It means I can go up against someone using an advantage and still hold my own, and I'm fine with that. The lack of transparency, probably not in the best sportsmanship, but again, with what Yusuf was saying yesterday, which I was kind of arguing in the MLT Discord, and in the Pixel Discord actually, is show me the rule book, right? I think Yusuf, did you get any PDFs yet? I think he has a $200,000 reward for the Tilted qualifying PDF. So if you guys can find the Tilted qualifying PDF rulebook, Pixel does have, or Yusuf does have a $200,000 bounty on that. So, so if you wanna get in on that, and again, that kind of echoes my points, right? Is that at some point, Tilted's going to be bigger than any one community can manage, and it's going to splinter. And in my opinion, you don't want the people breaking the game against you, because people breaking the game are going to have an advantage, the breaking of the game. And so if you're on the other side of the table of the people breaking the game, they will leave you in the dust. You want these people on your side. You want the people breaking the game to be as invested in the community as anyone else, because they're the ones that can destroy it. I'm not going to equate it to a hostage situation, but you want these people on your side. You want to encourage them to help make the game better. You want to encourage them to be more involved. You want to encourage them, because witch hunts like these only send one message, and the message is don't tell anybody what you're doing. It's a dog eat dog world, and if you want to be on top, you got to watch out for number one. And that's not the kind of competition we want to foster. At least I don't. In this community, right? We want that competitive cooperation. We challenge each other to make each other better, right? At least that's what I look for. Great example. Let's use an analogy here. Children often get into the fascinations, like hyperfixations and whatnot. So let's assume there's a child who has gotten into like bringing home bird eggs, right? They always look around trees, and if a bird egg is fallen out of a tree, they like put it in their pocket and they take it home. But they don't tell their parents about it, and then it winds up in the wash. It makes a mess or whatever. And then two parents, right? So parent one is like, if you bring another egg into this house, I'll smash it in front of your face. Don't bring another egg into this house, right? The other parent is like, hey, if you find an egg, tell me about it, okay? You can't just leave it in your pocket, all right? We can try to incubate it. We can try to hatch it. We can do a little science experiment with it if you want. But just tell us so we can work with it, right? Who do you think that child's going to tell next time they find an egg? They're not going to tell parent one. They're going to tell parent two, right? So that's where I stand with it. Even better situation, let's split, let's make it two children, both with the fixation of bringing home eggs, right? Child one has the angry parent, child two has the fostering parent, right? Well, child one is just going to take the egg, hide it under their bed. It's going to rot. It's going to fester. It's going to make some weird disease that spreads to the whole house and make everyone sick, right? Where child 2, they hatch the egg. Turns out it's a rattlesnake, not a bird. It's like, oh honey, we have to get rid of this. I'm sorry, but we can try again next time, right? I'm in camp number 2, all day every day, as far as what I want for this community, right? I'm not. If you want to be camp A, go right ahead. If that's how you want to manage your community and your stream and your whatever, you are free to do so. But I'm in camp B every time. Every time. So that's where I'm at with it. Sure, give me some rattlesnakes. Shake things up a bit. Break the game. Bring me those eggs. Let's grow them. Let's hatch them. See what we got, right? Let's crack this thing open, right? So if anyone else has varying opinions on those kinds of things, feel free to put those in the chat, or as I said, if you want to use the Discord, Yusuf's in here. We'll get Yusuf in here in a little bit. One more thing I did want to say. If you feel that it was nefarious, if you feel there were people who knew the extent of their advantages, and if you felt that they deliberately kept it a secret, and if you felt that they were nefarious in their intent to gain an advantage over the rest of the community, you are within your right to have that conclusion and to make decisions based on that conclusion. I would argue you're wrong, but if that is your interpretation, I can understand why, and I'm not going to fight you for it, what you do on your personal level. The only time I spoke up was to distinguish what you do with a single individual and what message you send to the community, right? That's what I was worried about. When people are saying we should ban everyone who did this, I think that sends the worst message we could to the Tilted community. I don't think that's a message we want to send, and that's when I decided to speak up about it, right? So again, if there's a personal interaction you have, if there's a personal decision you want to make, you are free to do so based on what your conclusions are. But I would be very cautious about how that is received by the rest of the community and what that portrays to the rest of the community, because I think it can be quite damaging. A breakfast burrito, maybe. I do also want to say, because there were some people thinking that there was this small little elite group of secret keepers that didn't want to tell anyone about this and kept them all to yourselves. Actually, I wrote it down here. There it is. Okay. So I've done some research. For anyone who thought this was a secret, one, I already discussed that the breaking was brought to my attention during a live stream on Tilted, and we watched everything on screen. But here are 3 streams, titles, from 3 different people that were streaming this mechanic in the last month, for all to see. New Tilted Tech, which I believe was the end of February. New Tilted Tech. It was literally a stream of nothing about trying to push this double input and triple input glitch to its breaking point. I think I broke Tilted. That's enough. If I think I broke Tilted in the marble category, I'm clickbaited immediately. I don't even think it's a mental process. My hand will just mouse click over there by default. I won't even have a choice in the matter. All right. And then trying again to break Tilted. So 3 different people, more than once, publicly advertising that they were working on this. So when I say this is the unfortunate side effect of clicks, this is exactly what I'm talking about. If you were looking for it, if you take the time to click on Tilters and you look at their VODs, right? If they're not live now and you have a couple minutes to, skim through some stuff, click on their videos if they have VODs turned on, and look at their stream titles, look at the thumbnail, see if it's tilted, and then, skip through it a little bit, see what you come across. That's what I do. That's how I found out about it. So yeah, no one was hiding nothing. So I'm going to put that rumor to bed right now. We were talking about it on stream multiple times. And if you missed it, that's your problem. I would also probably add, if you're banning people from your channel, you don't get to complain about not finding about things the right way. All right? If you didn't hear about something and you have tilters banned from your channel, in my opinion, you don't get to complain. I mean, you can complain if you want, but you've lost all argument, in my opinion. If you've already made it known that certain tilters are not welcome in your channel, don't be surprised when people don't tell you things in the tilted community. That's all I'm saying. Yusuf, you ready to get in here? I can get you in here. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you have comments, either in chat or longer messages, you can put into Discord. Or if you want to join in voice, we can get you in voice. All right, let's get Yusuf in here. Hello, sir. Do I have to unmute you? Unmuted. Magic.
Yo.
Hi.
How you doing, man?
Doing good. I know you just got through talking about all this yourself, but...
Yeah, a little bit. It was just more me talking, saying my side, and then questioning some things. It wasn't really me trying to force my opinion. I just wanted to understand shit, because I was even confused myself at times. I kind of had a reasoning for the alleged outrage, but, you know, it's Marvels. I've been around way too long to see shit like this, so... But I guess I can kind of summarize. I'll go over like my opinion on the patch initially. I guess I'm fine with it. I mean, like you mentioned, it would have been cool for speed running purposes. Now, at the end of the day, like speed running is just a niche genre, so it's not really the priority. And according to Pixel, you know, it's what he wants. So I understand the patch, especially for the triple inputs. One thing that I was more upset about, not necessarily the patch. I'm fine with that, and I want to give a shout out to the studio for acting so quickly. But you know, to me, I was more upset by the reaction of not just some tilters, but pretty much everyone. To be honest, like to me, it was like, sure, there's nothing wrong with having a little bit of divisiveness in the community. I think diverse opinions are a good thing to help grow the channel or grow the community.
I will say, I've seen a couple more people tilting this week.
Oh, that's
so it's you know, any publicity is good publicity. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, that's what Dale Earnhardt said. As long as they're making noise. But I guess to me, kind of like what you said, people like saying if anyone's ever used this or knew about it and didn't say shit, they should be banned. Man, that shit pissed me off. And the reason why is because, you know, like I mentioned yesterday, it's like, what rules? And I understand that there is a community, I guess, unwritten rule ethics book about how to play certain games, which is, you know, and for the most part, I'm not going to say it's not appropriate, but for someone new to come into Tilted and they, like you said last year, you said they're not going to be ready for people to actually break the game.
Right. And not care what they think about it.
Right. But like in this case, unfortunately, though, it's part of the community and people do care, which is like a, you know, it's a whole nother thing. But to me, it upset me more because of the stuff that was said earlier in the week too. Like when I was watching the Raw podcast and, you know, Pixel and Spoo kind of mentioned, they don't really talk the best about the Tilted community, and it's no secret. And to me, they talked about the whole botting thing and how essentially Tilted is just this witch hunt of people who have their shields up, who anyone, as soon as they are allegedly botting or scripting, they ban them everywhere. And to me, when I saw that, I was like, I mean, like, I understand why some people do it. Some people want to run their community certain ways. You know, I questioned yesterday, what's the education process for someone potentially being new to this? And to me, I saw the exact behavior that they described stereotypically, which not many people do. And they kind of just displayed that full display for this, you know, multi-input shit. And to me, that was just like so frustrating because to me, I don't know Pixel. I don't know them like that or what their agenda is in particular, but I do know that they want to work on stuff that has a positive, you know, look to it, which is why they invest in races so much. And Tilted's always the you know, the fucking bottom of the barrel. And to me, that shit's annoying because I'm trying to work on shit with Tilted. I've been doing shit for the last 2 years. I know you've been trying to do stuff with the weekly competitions. And to me, it's just frustrating as fuck because I mean, like what he mentioned, like what last time? Well, who's doing any weekly events? Just
That one hurt a
MLT.
little bit, honestly.
I was like,
That hurt a
God
little bit.
damn.
Yeah.
I was like, God
And
fucking
he
damn.
said
Like,
nothing on YouTube. I was like, 2 years of my life? Excuse me, sir?
well, bro, like, and to me, that was upsetting because that
Yeah.
tells me right there, they don't look as in depth as they
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
They don't know what the fuck they're doing, what's happening in the community half the time. They just, you know, I remember one time Pixel said, "Oh, I scroll, bro," when he talks about looking through the category. Well, unfortunately, he's even pointed out that Tilted doesn't get the viewership that's congruent with their marbles because of the way Twitch, you know,
Right.
counts of viewers.
Right.
And so we are already handicapped in one sense. But at the same time, like when I see that type of stuff, and I know I sound like I'm shitting on Pixel, I don't want it to come off like that, but it just to prove his point that he was right about some people. And to me, I hate that it's almost like we're all being stereotyped at this point. And I'm trying, like, I mean, I've done 7 different game modes with Twisted Tilted Showdown to try to get people to play Tilted different ways. You've done Tilted competitions. You know, MLT has done stuff. There have been other people who've done tilt-offs against each other, like Chad Reed and Karina, you know, Emker Solid Mustard.
Are they still full swing on German Tilt League, or is that kind of
there's going to be I'm actually not 100% sure, but I do know that in May, you know, when I got you guys all on that call about this Tilted Esports League that I want to start in May, and, you know, to me, it's just, I don't think that attitude is, like, necessary. Like, I don't want this, you know, pitchforky kind of thing, but it also leads back into my other thing, where we, as the Tilted community, need to take accountability, too. We need to have rules for this. We need to have rules for competition. Now, as far as what other ethics of the high score leaderboard, which I found out was basically the root cause, people didn't want potential people to gain an advantage for high scores, because I understand the Tilted leaderboard does mean a lot to people.
Right.
And like, some people might be like, well, I saw Duplix get to level 40 with this cheating, and I have to bust my ass to get to 30. You know, like, I understand that shit hurts at times, but like, at the same time, I don't pocket watch. You know, I just focus on me. But I understand that, you know, when you're a big family of Tilted, of course, you're going to be looking at what your peers do. So I kind of get that. But to me, you know, back to the whole MLT thing and even other events, that's something that just slipped through the cracks about multi-input and modded controls.
Like I said, no one noticed. So it obviously wasn't that big, right? No one was like, hey, I think that board's moving faster. Like,
I'll drop it. K9 came to me almost a little while ago, and he showed me this. I'm like, and I tried it on my computer, and I noticed zero difference.
It's so insignificant until you get to the breaks that were happening recently.
I was like, but yeah, exactly. The triple input is what fucked everything. But to me, I think this should just be a sign for us as a community to really tighten ourselves up, because the way we're presented, we it seems like only the bad shit gets out of Tilted. Fuck all the good shit that we do. And, you know, with races, you know, surprisingly, it's a bigger community. So it can't be as easily stereotyped as Tilted. But to me, like, I'm hoping we can get past this, because goddamn, I got plans in the works. It's going to involve people like you. It's going to involve everyone in this fucking community. We're going to take Tilted to the next level. I'm working with people. Like, man, I've already spent, goddamn, too much money I don't even want to talk about to get this shit started.
I wish I had as much money to throw at this as you do, sir.
Man, thank God for the new job. I swear to God, they put me to sleep. But I mean, I'm just saying, man, like, the amount of stuff that I wanted to do, the amount of creative ideas. That's why I always get you guys on a call, regardless of what our perspectives is.
Right.
I'll get, like, I mean, can you think of anyone else? I don't consider myself a streamer. I stream once a week. Like, can you think of anyone else who can get over almost 40 people on a call to talk in a cohesive way? Barely.
I can't.
And that's one thing I'm willing. I have an ego. I'm going to bullshit, but at the same time, I'll put it aside just to hear people and incorporate people, just like with this checkpoint thing. I told you guys on that call that, look, we're a big enough community where we can make noise. The studio will have to listen to us.
Yep. It worked for Seeds.
Right. And it sounds like, according to the last Raw, that, you know, Pixel even admitted, like, I don't even fuck with you, stuff like that. But look, he got some good shit. So, to me, I'm just hoping that, goddamn, there's so much shit I want to say, but, you know.
Well, as I'm often the devil's advocate, even against myself, allow me to devil's advocate a little bit off of what you've said so far. So one thing I think that did not help was how the people who didn't know found out. I think for a lot of people, their only exposure to this was the lead marbles jumping over the wall.
Hmm.
So that was the first thing they saw, the first time they heard about it, and then they heard, oh, this has been going on since MLT season 2, and they were like, what, right? And that I understand. But educate yourselves, right, before you organize the witch hunt. You at least know what you're hunting. So I think that didn't help. Is how the people who didn't know found out. They found a very extreme example very late in the game and just kind of applied it to the whole thing, which is not the case. So that's the one side there. The other thing, since we're talking about Pixel, I believe him that he's jumping in as many streams as he can. I'm sure he has his favorites like we all do, but I'll be in a small streamer and he'll pop in and I'll be like, wow, Pixel, you're here. He's like, yeah, I'm here. I'm everywhere, right? So I've seen him lurking around in streams I wouldn't expect him to be lurking around in.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I see him. I'm not saying he's not everywhere.
Right,
I'm not
right.
saying he's not doing stuff, but I'm talking about like the intention when it comes to investing in time and energy
Right.
and stuff like that. It's definitely biased. And to be fair, though, races is the forefront of the game, whether we like it or not.
Yep. That's what
I
makes
just
the money.
personally think, I just personally think, in the long run, right, when it comes to Tilted, because it is a skill-based game, to me, there's a higher ceiling. Now it's going to be harder to obtain that ceiling.
Yep.
So, for example, stuff like, we'll use, I mean, this is kind of a cheap shot, but League of Legends and all this stuff that are like skill-based games that barely have any viewer interaction to them.
Yeah.
Now they have like these big stadiums that are filling that. And I can imagine people filling stadiums to watch the best at Tilted playing Tilted.
Right.
No offense, but
scrambling to be one of the 100 that gets on the screen, right?
Exactly.
Like,
no one's gonna watch fucking marble races like that, because marble races it's not a skill. You just sit back, you watch, you chill with your community. That's why there's so many different communities that play races and can just chill and have a good time. Most of them have the most fun when they don't even know about the leaderboard and stuff. They just have their own fun. So if we can get to that point with Tilted, that's, to me, that's where the growth's going to be. If we can perfect our craft at Tilted and able to market that, that'll be where the money is.
Yeah. And I think that also kind of helped me time my decision as well to kind of step back. Because it was pretty clear that, I think Pixel takes Tilted seriously when he feels it needs to. Like, he knows when it starts getting stale and needs an update. But he's been working on the new map builder. He's been working on Bingo. He's been waiting for the Unreal 5 to drop. Like, I kind of knew Tilted was going to be in a back seat for a while. So it kind of helped me time my decision as well to kind of step back a little bit. And, as I said before, it's only so many people with so many hours in a day. So,
oh yeah, they're a small team, and I always try to give them grace. And I understand, like he even mentioned, Tilted is going to be on the back burner, which I'm completely fine with. Like, as long as there's like a plan in place. Like, I understand, there's like, I don't know all their priorities and their task list and all that stuff, but I understand that, I trust Pixel that he knows what he's doing, right? This is why I stick around since season 3. I haven't left this game. I haven't even took a break. But I'm not burnt out at all. But I guess, to me, it just does suck at times where the community doesn't echo that same sentiment when, like, even for builders, right? We've been hearing about tags in the game since season 11. It's season 31, and we still don't got shit. World builder, it's gonna happen. Like when I did Map Maker Melee, the amount of people that were like, yeah, building's getting fucking dry for me, I'm kind of done. To me, like, it's kind of heartbreaking, because I know Pixel has plans. I understand they don't have the most labor, most like developers out there that can help them, and that's why I'm kind of anxious for that. But I do understand that there's an opportunity cost where Tilt is going to be put to the side, or races. But right now, personally, with the exception of this, I don't really think Tilted really needs that much of a push. I just want to,
not a push, no, but I think another update is definitely going to be needed to keep the mode growing, like a significant update rather than just a couple tile additions.
To me, right now, I think the biggest thing that Tilted needs, like they mentioned, competition, right? If there were tools to make it more intuitive,
right,
to have competitions, that would be great. Which is what the checkpoint system basically was. Now, one thing that I would love to do, which I'm not going to put in the candy now, but down the line, if there's a way where someone like a Baxcaster or you could come on and commentate stuff like you've done with your events,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you could have like 4 tilters linked and you could have like a Rocket League type of camera where
Right,
you could
right.
just swap through different
Spectator
tilts.
mode. Yeah.
Exactly. And something like that. Now that'll take a long time, I'm sure, but
Mm-hmm.
something like that would make it more intuitive. And plus, even something simple like letting custom points for the local leaderboard for Tilted, because we don't have that right. And I
Yeah.
know it's hard
Yeah.
to determine how to order it, who got in the bucket first, or whatever it may be, or just
Mm-hmm.
customize it by level. But I could just imagine spoos like, oh, the spoo 17, this one's worth 100 points. You better
Right.
get
Yeah.
in here
Yeah.
now, something like that. So
Every level is -2 points except for level 7.
something, because to me, I do think that Tilted does need a little bit of a like I know I could run one. I'm sure you could run one too, no problem, just with the experience. But like in terms of just like a little bit of more of a cushion for beginners, I
Mm-hmm.
guess, to run something. And to me, that races have had that for years. They've
Yeah.
got the local leaderboards, they got the custom, they got all that stuff. They have even builders in some cases building tracks
Mm-hmm.
for specific events.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what the world builder is going to be if tilted builders make tilted. I don't even know how the
Mm-hmm.
fuck that's going to work, but we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. And I know some people not in the Tilted community, just regular developers and programmers. I know a lot of them actually. Now that I think about it, but kind of that thing with how racers have more tools than we do. You can make custom maps. You can't make custom tilt boards. You can have seeds, but that's kind of like a bleh. Um, but the thing being there is that if needed, right, we could reverse engineer the seeds, right? It might be a TOS thing. I'd have to read up on it for Marvel's Unstream's TOS. But you could probably reverse engineer the seed generator and then figure out, I want this board for this level. What seed has that, right? They've done it for Minecraft. They've done it for a lot of other games that use basic generators to just reverse the logic. So
Just find the board with the most flat pieces.
right,
Easy level
yeah, just
70.
find it's all straight pieces. That seed exists. You just have to know what it
Oh
is,
yeah,
right?
someone's credit card number somewhere.
So there are all those things, and that kind of why I wanted to speak up in this situation is like, in my mind, I don't think Pixel was going to even look at Tilted for another 6 months at least. And we were able to yoink him out of whatever he was doing, and he cracked on it for what, 2 days, 3 days straight to get the patch up, right? So the fact that without any updates or changes to Tilted over the last 4 seasons, 5 seasons, not counting the new tiles, this was able to get Pixel to look back at Tilted again, right? And from what I've heard from other people's reporting, I've never had really input issues. I just had the scatter glitch across tiles, but people are saying that their boards are going smoother. They got less jumps. Like it was actually an improvement to the Tilted physics with the patch that he put through. So, these can be good things
Mm-hmm.
if you approach them in the right way. And again, blame on both sides. I would say not good that these things weren't shared as transparently as we would have liked. But it's also up to us to set those expectations. We can't just expect anyone who jumps into Tilted to know all the unspoken rules.
Right.
So,
That's going to be a whole nother issue if we actually need to get to that point. Because, I mean, to me, like, if Tilted's going to get as big as I hope it's going to be, it's going to get to the point where
oh yeah,
there's no point. Like,
you're gonna need
good
hardware
luck.
minimum requirements. You're gonna need VOD uploads. You're gonna need Twitch verification. Like, it's actually better. Something other speedrunners. I don't know if you've been seeing this in other speedruns, but there's some integrations with Twitch and games for speedrunning. So Twitch can say, yes, they streamed the game at this time. Right? So like someone can't just record themselves and then stream the recording.
Yeah.
Like Twitch knows, no, they weren't playing the game at that time, right?
Right.
So
Yeah, it's like another way to verify.
it's actually easier to verify with Twitch integration now for certain
Right.
speedrunning aspects. Marbles is so integrated to Twitch already, I would imagine it's not that difficult.
Mm-hmm. Luckily, for the most part, though, I mean, we're not at that point yet, but luckily, you know, the honor system, quote unquote, is good enough where people aren't really cheating, you know, so.
Yep.
Or exploiting, you know.
Yeah. Cool. Any other avenues you wanted to wander down?
Fuck. Not really sure. Can't really think of anything. I guess I'm hoping these recent incidents have helped grow the community stronger in the long run. Hopefully, more people can take initiative and create events, whether it be just for their own communities or including others, whatever it may be. Because I think, you know, the event is such a buzzword that that strikes a lot of people. Like, to me, some people have called my Saturday streams where I just talk my nonsense a talk show when I'm just talking out my ass. So I mean, sure, I could be cheeky and brand that an event, but at the same time, like,
just chatting with Marbles.
yeah, except, you know, I continue to press play and I don't just sit on one race, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Sped, I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, no problem.
And we'll be looking forward to what you got coming up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I can give a little, I guess, brief intro on what it's going to be, basically, if you want. Or
go for it.
So basically, it's a Tilted Esports Association. That's going to be the name. It's basically going to be a group Tilted league where it's going to try to promote as much inclusivity as possible with everyone in the community. There will be team Tilted game modes that'll be played. The whole point of this league is to encourage people to, you know, kind of network and brand themselves in a way where it's going to be more competitive. And for example, there's going to be teams that consist of 3 people, like a minimum, no more than 5 people. You can have a manager on your team, or coach, and some people call it. That's a non-player. So someone who's not really a Tilted player, but they want to be involved, they can be a manager or coach of a team.
Right.
And basically, I'm going to try to run it like the NFL. Basically, people will get cut, people will get traded. There'll be free agency pools where people want to sign. There'll be injured reserve designated lists and stuff like that. And I'm going to run it just like that. And basically, there'll be a lot of... Right now, the first 6 to 12 months, I would say, I just want to get people used to the aspect of tilting as an esports team. Because I just signed on with the regular ass gamer squad, who I pitched myself to a lot of people, and they gave me a chance to do it with Marbles.
Right.
So, you know, to me, I want to try to push the esports, I guess not narrative, but, you know, whatever the fuck it is. But basically get people used to that kind of environment, to be a little more competitive, learn to practice their craft. And I understand right now, and this isn't just the Marbles community, but a lot of people are kind of, you know, they're not really used to challenges. Anytime they face obstacles, they're like, oh, what's the point? I give up. This is too hard.
Right.
I want to push people to persevere through that stuff. Not necessarily take it personally, but like work at what they're doing. So that's just a little bit of what I have in mind. I want people to promote friendlies or exhibitions, as some people call it, where one team can verse another team. They can have the game mode. It'll help them with marketing. It'll help them, you know, if they let me know ahead of time, like, hey, our team's going to verse their team, I'll create some graphics for them that they can use on social media if they want to promote it ahead of time. You know, stuff like that. Get people used to this kind of stuff. So it's almost like a condition.
Just an example for people to kind of grab on to the vision. You could imagine whether we do or do not get checkpoints, you could imagine a situation where you have your 3 tilters, and, you know, one tilter does 0 to 15, the other tilter does 15 to 30, the other one does 30 plus, right?
Right. So basically, that it's like a relay almost,
Yeah.
where you hand off the baton.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why I wanted to push for checkpoints too is because there are a lot of tilters out there who love tilt, but they're just not as good as some other people. And to me, having them inclusive in a type of event where it doesn't take much for people to feel involved.
Right.
Like it really doesn't.
If you can 100% to level 15, there'd be a place for you on
like
any team.
even something like levels 1 through 5. If you just want to start the greens off, get your team off to a good start. That's all it takes. Like for example, I am not a better tilter than custom fitted, but I own his ass in the green levels because of the amount I speed ran. But once it comes to the reds in the 15s through 19s,
once things start moving, it gets a little fuzzy.
It's like pretty much. So, and to me, I think if people are able to experience that, I think it'll also just open the help beginners out too, looking for teams and all that stuff, and that's what I want to promote at the end of the day. So once I announce the league, I'll begin the it won't be like a free agency thing. What's going to happen, because it's actually unique, there'll be like an expansion period where people will be able to create their teams of
kind of like a scout and draft period,
right? So people can create their own teams if they want their super teams, whatever, I don't care. But there'll be certain game modes where you guys could be targeted if you guys are threats. So for example, there'll be one where if you complete like all the checkpoints, then you can choose to add 60 seconds to someone's timer.
Ooh.
And 60 seconds is a long time.
That's 2 levels.
So yeah, if you've been naughty to some people and they have little grudges, guess what? I mean that's probably gonna fuck me up a lot, but I don't care. But it'll just be some little fun stuff. I mean, who knows how that might go? Some people might say, "Oh, you're bullying" or whatever, but it's all fun at the end of the day. But yeah, that's the vision right now. I'm every day after work, I've been hitting up the write-ups for the league rules and stuff like that, terms and conditions. So
actual rules. Oh, you monster, Yusuf! You monster!
I'm such a dick,
you're gonna make your own PDF.
Oh, we already got PDF, dude. I just made a Twitter today for the damn thing, so
nice.
There'll be some stuff. But yeah, that's once that's out there, once it's almost ready for launch. I'll open it up to the world and see if there's any interest.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it, sir.
All right. Is there anything else you want to ask me before I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do after this? Take a shit, maybe. I don't know.
You think Curie's gonna take it for MLG this season? I had my money on him initially, but he doesn't look so good now. I don't know. I mean, it's such a grab bag because some people are like good tilters, but some people like crack under pressure. Like for example, when I played Selecki in your tournament, I thought Selecki should have beat me. Then he scuffs on 23 because he didn't wait for the bridge. I'm like, oh, it was easy. That's tournaments for you, man. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you again, and we will see you around, sir.
All right. Take care, Shens.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. If anyone else wants to hop into voice chat, feel free to do so. Still going to be open. And anyone has any contributions, either in Discord or in Twitch chat if it fits, feel free to weigh in. I'll kind of review chat. I know we were going through a bunch of stuff here. Do we have an actual occurrence of people using the exploit to cheat? It depends on your definition of cheating. According to Marbles TOS and every rule book for every tournament that was organized for Tilted, no cheating occurred. Double inputs were never banned from any tournament. And it's not against Marbles TOS. So, no one has ever cheated as far as I interpret it. But I'm sure there are people who interpret it that way. Well, if you want Dublix, you can make some comments, and I'll cut you off when you start ranting. If that's what you want, we can do that. I'm not afraid. But yeah, that's kind of why I'm having this. I feel like a lot of people didn't have the whole picture, and I'm sure I don't have the full picture, but I feel like I had a lot more information than most people did. So that's why I wanted to share what I knew and kind of draw out a timeline for everyone, so people who may have overreacted or did not have the best introduction to what was going on have a chance now to kind of regroup now that the emotions are gone and they've had time to collect, and they can, step back from it and just see. Okay, yeah, the misinformation for sure. I can understand that being Tilted Esports. We're gonna be the sneaky hobbitses, because that's what we are. We're sneaky little hobbitses, scheming and sneaking. I thought that was a foregone conclusion. Algren, hello, welcome in. Yes, Algren. So you were one of the ones when I mentioned earlier that I had seen some new people tilting and new people coming out to Tilted. I've seen higher viewers for people that normally don't have as high views, and any publicity is good publicity. My only concern is what it makes the community look like, right? So while it is good to get a little exposure to Tilted in otherwise a lull, because we haven't had a significant update for a while, about 5 seasons, and we're probably not going to have another update for probably another 6 months or so at least. I think overall this has been a good thing, but that it's not to say that there aren't caveats to what could have happened. Oh, well, it's hard to demonstrate now, but there is a clip in the Tilted Discord. If you scroll up to the 22nd of March in the Tilted Pixel by Pixel Discord, you'll see some clips and posts about it. So feel free to rewind there. We've already gone over the basics there, so for the sake of redundancy, we'll avoid repeating ourselves. So Dublix, in regards to that, right? Kind of what we were saying. There's no official rule book for Tilted other than the Marbles TOS, which, in case you guys don't know, I believe is accessible. You go to Settings, Terms of Service. Give this a read. I read this. It's probably changed since I last read it. That's another thing I was kind of upset about when Pixel said no one reads the Terms of Service. Maybe not for everything, but every leasing agreement I read from cover to cover. Anything I sign legally, whether it's a bank account or anything, I read the TOS all the way through. I don't read the TOS for every game I play, but when the whole Grandma's Cookies things was happening, and then Pixel got a lawyer, and there's a legal move, once the lawyer legal update happened to the TOS, I read through all this. So, like I said, it's probably been updated since then, but I've read through this. So there is stuff about, I don't know where, but there is stuff about what you can't do to the game, mostly regarded to programming, which is probably under the license. One, you don't have title or ownership of the game. You just have a license to use the game. And then anything you give Pixel regarding Marbles, I think this is what Crest posted. Anything you give Pixel in regards to Marbles is the studio's property. So any clips, any bug information, any of that is theirs once you give it to them. No, this is more of a universal thing, right? You can't sell game stuff because that's a legal loophole that, most countries are organized against now. And then, I don't know if either it's not in here anymore, or it's probably just don't know where to look. But I remember there being something specifically about not reprogramming or editing the game. It's probably in the ownership part somewhere. But here it is. You must not reverse engineer, decompile, or modify any product, right? So when I was talking about the seed generator That would be a TOS, right? So right there, you must not reverse in your decompile or modify, right? And that's kind of my point, right? Is that what all the glitch was, in case anyone still doesn't know how you do it or did it, you go to input and you just make two inputs and then you just press both inputs at the same time. So in this case, you would do joystick up and then you would do D-pad up and then you would have that. So for anyone who's still confused about that, there's your quick tutorial. All right, let's see. We got Trohuska here. How the community goes forwards to this, and I think Yusuf and I were touching on that pretty good there. I think it is going to break it a little more, but it's not. I don't think it's creating any new fissures. I think the fissures have always been there, and like I was saying before, why I kind of stepped back from Tilted is it had gotten to that size where it's just natural, where the one group is too big to sustain itself, and it's gonna splinter off. I just think some cracks may have become bigger, and people who were straddling those cracks have started to go to one side or the other. I don't think the fissure's so big that you can't still straddle it. I would say most viewer grinders, I'm sure, are straddling it. You know, it's going to take a lot to make something matter more than points, right? Like if your marbles game is get points, you don't care. You know, the tilter could be barbecuing a goat on stream. It's like, I don't care. Just give me them points, right? Like, so I think there's still plenty of room for people to straddle that divide. But I recently found out there were two more people on the other side of the divide that I thought were not, because I see them in my stream regularly, and I hope they continue to visit my stream regularly. But it was a bit of a surprise. So we'll see how that all unfolds. So yeah, I would say yes, it will make it more broken by definition, but I think the breaking is inevitable, and I think it's not to a point where it can't be straddled. But I think more people were finally choosing a side once the gap got a little bigger. Yeah. That busted input thing. Remember that busted input thing? Remember when you just needed two marbles to finish a tilted level? And then Shin slow rolled to level 57 and we never looked back. I mean, we'll laugh about it. I don't know if everyone else will laugh about it, but we'll laugh about it. I know, 2 marbles. Is that even tilting? It's probably not. It probably wouldn't even call it tilting these days. But to be fair, back then we didn't know all the tricks. We didn't have all the little physics gags worked out yet. Okay, we had to go over naked volcanoes into double bridges with no walls. Okay, you don't know what it was like back then. You couldn't just look this shit up. We had to figure it out for ourselves after 7 hours of tilting. Had to solve it on the fly. Y'all are spoiled. Hi, Kamas. How you doing? Welcome in. You're a little late to the party, but feel free to chime in. I feel you're a bit more up to speed on these things than most anyway, so you probably have a good contribution to make if you chose to do so. And again, thank you all for coming out to bring up sides of things. Again, I wanted to have a stream that was able to shed more light on what actually occurred as far as I know, and give people who may have felt a little dissuaded from contributing a platform to contribute on. Not that I need everyone to agree with me. But it seemed like there were a lot of places people were not allowed to agree. So just let people voice their concerns, whatever those concerns might be. Yeah, like tiles not having collisions, right? Those things. Only 20 maps in total. What? Oh, you mean 20 tiles? Yeah, the single crescent on level 80 was the hardest tile ever created. Now, ironically, if we had the popcorn glitch back then, we could have gotten past those tiles. We could have just shot the three. You only needed 2 marbles. You could shoot one over and then bounce the other one over it on the back end. You know, ironically enough, we would have been able to beat it had we known. And shortcuts, those were the days. I know Pixel. I think Pixel wants shortcuts back, because I know he was fooling around with that weird like double corner tile where it was like slope, corner, slope, corner, slope, right? Where you could potentially skip off, but the camera was like freaking out over it or whatever. So I have a very strong suspicion Pixel wants to find a good way to put shortcuts back in the game. But the unpredictable shortcuts I don't think is what he wants. I think he wants those more predictable shortcuts, but pure speculation on my part. Pure speculation. Any other voice chatters that want to pop into Discord for a voice chat? Would be open to it. And again, if you have something lengthy to add, feel free to use the Discord channels, as they are not, well, they have a 1,500 character limit, not a 200 character limit. So I can't say it's unlimited, but it's certainly less limited. And you can always type it into a Word file and then upload the Word file. But then I guess that has to be under 10 megabits, so that technically has a limit as well. But if you need a Word document to say your whole thing, come on, you can't have that much to say. Tilt builds implemented. It would be fun. It would be fun, and I would not be opposed to those not counting, right? So you could have you have community maps, right? And then you could have community tilts, right? And it's just no points, no XP, just, whatever. You could even put it in arcade, right? You could do community tilts in arcade mode, right? So that would be fun. That would be fun. Separate leaderboards. That's a good one to talk about. Separate leaderboards. For the XP. So for those of you who don't know, let's just go to the leaderboards here real quick. Viewer points. That's the one thing I would be concerned about. If you split up viewer points, in a way it would be good, in a way it would be bad. It would be good for Tilted, because then, like the 000 Club, right? That's their gold ticket, right? 000 Club would explode on a divided leaderboard, right? So there are people whom that would benefit greatly. But, Tiara, races and tilts. Finish, races and tilts. Stan, races and tilts. I don't know about Notchback. I don't know about Scintillating Stoner. I think Scintillating's been in my stream, though, so he's definitely racing and tilts. G-Dog's racing and tilts. Ash is racing and tilts. Shresty's racing and tilts. Romaine Bow's racing and tilts. Crest is racing and tilts. Adriana Hankey's racing tilts. Chad's racing and tilts. Minnesota, I think, is racing and tilts as well. So that I don't think is as clear. Oh, you guys can't see any of this. There you go. Now you can see. So I feel like splitting the leaderboard on the viewer side could be good, could be bad. For the 000 Club, it'll be great, but is that a smaller group than the people who wouldn't transfer, right? I would imagine people who are hitting those chunks on battle royales are not going to carry over to the tilts if the leaderboard was split on the viewer side. Now, streamer side, I don't see any drawback. I honestly don't. I don't see any drawback in splitting tilt and race streamer side. I don't. Racing would not change maybe more people would go for it thinking they have a better chance now. And definitely more people go for the tilt grind because the tilt grind sucks. So unless you're going to commit, 8 hours a day to it, grinding to level 35 on the same seed every day, it sucks. So it would definitely help out tilt grinders not being under as much pressure. There would still be people who, take it to the extremes, but would 3 people take it to the extreme every season? I don't think so. So I don't see a downside on the streamer side. But on the viewer side, I could see potentially a downside because I would think there's less 000s than there are people who are going to stick to those chunks. Well, you're right, Apple. And I'm not saying everyone, but I'm saying, people who, it depends on their play style, right? The old-fashioned grinders that are used to being in 14 streams, dropping 12 hours a day, they would love a tilt-only viewer leaderboard, right? Because they would crush. But there's people who don't want to do that, right? There's people who do not want to do that. And they'd rather just, get a couple chunks and hit a bunch of big races, 100-plus racers, get a couple wins and call it a day after 2-3 hours and still have a chance, right? So, yeah. It's my thoughts on the matter. That's a good point. Dr. Hemp, rank 1 every season. all chunks, all battle royales. We could. That'd be great. Doing an all battle royale grind one season. Oh my god, that'd be worse than 000ing. So yeah, all good ideas for the future. Things we can talk about. Any other talking points to be discussed? One thing I kind of wanted to speak more on, I don't know if we got into it enough with Yusuf, but we were talking about how many tools, right? The lack of tilted events. I really do think a part of it is tools, and Pixel has said, Tilted's not done yet. It's an incomplete game, so you can't be looking for perfection or success with something that's not finished yet. And like I said, I think Pixel's or Tilted's gonna die off a little bit until the next update. I think it's just the natural course of things, so we just have to be patient. But having more tools, I think, is definitely holding back Tilted at this point, which is again why I haven't been as involved in Tilted. It would be fun to do those challenges. So, doing like upside down tilts as a challenge stream would be fun. We did that one week. I don't know if that was a sponsored one. I think that was a non-sponsored one. But we had a Tilted tournament, and this was back when you had to grind to level 40 before anything interesting happened. So we did goof competitions on the way to level 40. So we did upside down tilting and tilt with your feet and, do something else while tilting, right? And we were having some fun with that. So it would be fun to see stuff like that as far as, the way the community could be innovative with tilted events. But speaking from experience, it's hard to sustain, right? And again, going back to the giveaway community, right? Because we didn't foster the giveaway community, longevity is a challenge, right? With weekly Tilted tournaments, it was getting harder and harder to secure 4 people every week. And that's just 4 people. You want probably 8 people at least for a good Tilted event every week to keep things interesting. But it was getting harder and harder to coordinate everything. And understandable, right? There's no prize. There's no, trophy you can put on your marble or anything like that. It's just something fun to do for a little bit. So you can be as innovative as you want, but the standing power is extremely limited because there's very few, if none, incentives for a tilted event like that, right? So it gets tricky. Redeem mode tilting, also interesting stuff I've fooled around with a little bit. Honestly, I feel like the redeem mode tilted is not, like, the redeems aren't powerful enough, honestly. A good tilter can overpower most of it. But that would be an interesting way to innovate. Something I've thought about is you do the chat versus the streamer, right? So you come up with a structure where the chat is trying to kill themselves and the tilter's trying to finish the marbles. So you can either do that with how far into the levels can the streamer get before the chat wins, or you can do whichever viewer is able to kill themselves the most, because it does tell you at the end of a tilt how many races each person was in, and it tells you how many points they got. So you could do, whoever was in all the races and got the fewest points, right? Which would be naturally progressive, because in the beginning you're only getting 1 point a level, and then once you hit the 20s plus, then like everyone's like, oh, I can't get these 6 points, it's gonna kill my lead, right? So there's room there, but again, the local leaderboards is a little bit of a challenge. Not having any prize structure or season structure, I think those are actual challenges to the tilted on the studio side, right? Like, there's incentive for people that make events. Spoo makes events, Tony Black's make events, and Tony Black's events do good, and he's incentivized to do that because it gets him higher up on the leaderboard, because more people come out, so he has more people racing, so he's getting more XP. Tilted doesn't work the same way. You get more people into Tilted, you're not getting more XP. I've fooled around with some of the tiles independently, and I'm pretty sure you cannot reliably get more than 60 marbles through a dick corner out of 100. And depending on your computer, how much scatter glitch you get leaving that corner, they're almost impossible to 100% once you have 40 marbles or more, unless you have like a nice corner on the back end of it, right? So Tilted doesn't scale the same way racing does. So XP, people coming out and giving you more XP, doesn't scale, especially when the first 20 levels give you nothing, right? You got to grind for half an hour just to have something that does something, right? So I would say that there are some significant advantages that racing has that Tilted does not have, that contributes to the lack of Tilted events. And I think the Tilted events have been as innovative as the racing events. They just don't have the staying power because there's no incentive. It's just something fun to do for a while. You get bored of it and you move on because there's no reason to keep doing it, right? So, yeah. All right, let's see here. Smebity, something like a Dixper or crowd control. I think the redeems are pretty good. I just think they could be more powerful. At least on the tilted side. The racing, I think they work great for, but I don't think they're as powerful as they should be for the tilted. And I don't think there's a way for Pixel to easily change that. But with what I've played around with, that's what I've noticed. Let's see here. Lugo Valos. Trying to find a way to divide up the difficulties. So the way Pixel has Tilted built is each difficulty has a tile set. So technically each tile is set to its difficulty. Even if it's the same tile, I think. It's a speculation at this point, but even if it's the same tile, like the square tile on 10 is the same as the square tile on 15, there's still two different tiles because they're colored differently, and it's a different tile pool. I don't think he has the same tile being sent to a different level in a different color. I think the way he has it broken down, what I've seen when he's doing the Tilted builds on his stream, is that each difficulty has its own tile set, even if it's a copied tile. So the architecture, as far as I know, is there. One thing I've wanted to do with that, honestly, is I've always wanted to do like the endurance run. So rather than having levels, you just have one tilt. And the first 10 tiles are the first difficulty, the second 10 tiles are the second difficulty, the third 10 tiles are the third difficulty, right? And it's one board that builds on the front, disappears on the back, and just gets harder and harder. And you see how far you can go in a single tilt, right? Now, obviously, that's not going to be as conducive to the interaction, right? Because, Tilted, every 30 seconds to 2 minutes, you get to join back in again. So, a mode like that is not going to be as in the spirit of how Pixel normally approaches Marbles on Stream's innovations. But I think it could still be something interesting, even as just an arcade mode, right? So it would be interesting to see something like that. Let's see. Drohuska. Seem a little stagnant? Yeah, it's just they're working on other things. Exactly. Like I said, I wasn't expecting Pixel to touch Tilted for at least another 6 months based on everything else he's working on. So the fact that we were able to get him to step in when he had no intention to is great, in my opinion. I think that shows how awesome of a job the people that were involved did. They pushed a game that had not been updated or changed for 5 or 6 seasons to the point where Pixel had to actually step in. Am I tilting, Pharaoh? No, we're not. We're talking about Tilted. So we're keeping it on topic. I apologize for any confusion. I felt to keep it in the category because it was very Marble specific. So if anyone was browsing the category, they probably want to see what we were talking about. So I stayed within the category. Man, we have the game open, so it counts, right? Love it. Tomorrow, after Record Hunters, we'll be doing practice. I will be doing a practice session tonight as well. So feel free to come back. I'll probably raid out, get some dinner, change, and come back and do the tilt session. So let's say in an hour and 8 minutes, we'll be doing some more practice for MLT. So if you want to check back then, that would be appreciated. And yeah. Any other comments, questions, concerns, contributions? Anyone wanting to jump in the chat last minute, voice chat? It's all good. And we will upload this to YouTube, so we'll post that. I don't think Pixel will want it posted in the PvP Discord, but feel free to share the video in as many Discords as you are allowed to do so appropriately. I don't want to send a hate mob to certain Discords and just spam Shen's videos all over it. Sneaky Hobbitses coming soon. Team Sneaky Hobbitses. If you don't rush a drawbridge, you're banned from the group. You get your contract gets torn up in that moment. That's the whole time. You're in the competition setting. You're in the arena. You got 1,000 people watching you. Emos just has your contract standing over your shoulder, just like, you better rush that drawbridge. You better rush that drawbridge. And the moment you don't, he tears it up. You're off the team. You're out. He doesn't care if you're the world champion, if you're about to win the whole series. It's like, nope, our team forfeits. He didn't rush the drawbridge. It's not how we do it on this team. Good stuff. All right. Anything else? We good? I feel like we have reached all the corners I wanted to reach, shown the light on the things needing light shined on them. They would win the crowd. You're right, Dulix. They would win the crowd because they would see it coming. They're like, oh, they're going to rush the drawbridge into revolving bridge. Don't do it, guys. Don't do it. And then they do it. You're like, you got to love their commitment. They never win, but they are so committed. You got to love it. That would be, I think another team could go that direction. The always hold W team. They never stop holding W. That's just their principle. It's You don't even get to choose. They tape the W key down at the beginning of the run, and you just have to make it work otherwise. Yeah, no, you just do not. You gotta skip every egg basket. You gotta skip every crescent. Do not stop. Do not stop. And good luck on those tilting tiles when the tilt board is going the other way. You're like, I need to not go forward right now. All right. Well, I think we've devolved from the point of conversation at this point, so I think we're going to wrap it up. But thank you all for being here. Thank you for taking the time to share. I know it can be a bit stressful, a bit divisive, a bit emotional, but I think we're past the moment enough where we can dive a little deeper into the conversation without getting as stirred up. So I hope this was helpful. Hope this has informed people who are otherwise not as well informed as they would have liked to be. And if you do have comments, feel free to leave them on YouTube or in my Discord, and we can continue the conversation there. So thank you again, and we'll see you around.